Hey book readers! Diving into a fantasy novel shouldn't require you to learn how to speak Dothraki or memorize the geography of Middle-earth. That's why today I'm making your wildest fantasies come true by sharing a quintet of approachable fantasy novels. First on the list is Redwall by Brian Jakes. What happens when all the cute woodland creatures battle with swords? Mice, badgers, squirrels, hares, weasels, shrews, and more. Redwall has them all, including evil rats and killer snakes. That's the thing about Redwall though, it's as black and white as a zebra. The good guys are good, and the bad guys are bad. Bad guys don't feel any remorse for their actions, and good guys don't experience character growth in any substantial way. They are who they are. So when the sinister Clooney the Scourge comes knocking on the door of Redwall Abbey, seeking to take it over and kill all of the peaceful critters who live there, you know whose side to take. Thus begins the heroic journey of Matthias, warrior mouse and protector of Redwall Abbey. He has to overcome obstacle after obstacle in order to band the neighboring animals together to defeat Clooney. It's a predictable but fun adventure, perfect for younger readers or those who just want to dip their toes in the world of fantasy books without diving in the deep end first. And if you really like it, there are more than 20 other books in the series to read. I think I read about a dozen or so of them when I was a teenager. The vibes on this one maybe are Stuart Little 'cause of mice? The Lies of the Ajungo by Moses Ose Utomi. A few days before he turns 13 and has his tongue cut off, a boy named Tutu must find water in a desert to save his mother and his people. Toss in a nosy neighbor and you've got all the hallmarks of a great sitcom, am I right? Seriously though, this short and sweet book gets pretty deep pretty fast, with an emphasis on contrasting elements like truth and lies, and friends and foes. And while Tutu goes on this epic quest, you can rest assured that it'll be over in the blink of an eye, because this novella is just 87 pages long. That's one of the reasons it's on this list. In reality, a good chunk of world building happens in such a short space, and like I mentioned, it's deeper than you'd expect. This has dark fairy tale vibes. Grimm brothers, eat your heart out. And it'll leave you wondering, does anyone still cross their fingers when lying? Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire, which is only 169 pages long. The first book in the Wayward Children series, Every Heart a Doorway features children happening upon doors that lead them to unique magical worlds. But when they return, life is difficult. While they long to get back to that otherworldly place, they have to deal with the realities of who they are and where they've been in our world. That's where Eleanor West in her School for Wayward Children comes in. The school gives these kids a place to stay as they struggle to adjust back to the real world. The book has whimsical writing with a touch of darkness to it. You might consider that a warning. Don't go into this one expecting it to be all rainbows and unicorns. While it's a YA fantasy and under 200 pages, this book touches on heavier themes like diversity and belonging. And at the end of this short book, if you wish there was more, I have good news! There is more! Because this is one of 8 in the series. Every Heart a Doorway is similar to Narnia, which has kids going to a magical land via a wardrobe. And it's also kind of like the house in the Cerulean Sea, which I'll talk about in a minute. And it'll leave you wondering, shouldn't they rename the school to something a little more positive sounding? Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. As I mentioned in my June 2023 wrap-up, Gregor the Overlander was written by Collins a few years before she wrote The Hunger Games. And it's obvious that her writing improved in the few short years in between these two books. Gregor the Overlander seems more like juvenile fiction than YA, so the story is simpler. The bad guys in the subterranean world are mainly oversized cockroaches, spiders, and rats. So it's only natural to be grossed out by them and view these characters as evil right from the jump. Do that, and for the most part, you will be on the right track. It was a solid, entertaining book, but I wasn't wowed by it. The story is straightforward, so you don't have to pay close attention. Scan a section or two and you won't miss anything major. Like I said, it's not complicated. If you want a basic fantasy novel that's just easy to follow, you could do a lot worse. The vibes on this one are Journey to the Center of the Earth meets Kafka's Metamorphosis, especially since Kafka's character is also named Gregor, except the main human character in Gregor the Overlander is interacting with bugs rather than turning into one. And it'll leave you wondering, is the Underland where all my missing socks go? The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Linus Baker is a caseworker for the department in charge of magical youth, checking on magically inclined children at orphanages. He's a bureaucrat through and through who wants to do his job well, mind his own business, go home, and repeat. But then he's sent to Marcius Island Orphanage, a special place where only the strangest and most troubled magical children go. It's where he finds his toughest assignment ever, determining the danger that this particular orphanage poses because of its inhabitants. A gnome, a sprite, a wyvern, and unidentifiable green blob, a were-Pomeranian, and the Antichrist. It's a story about family, belonging, being different, and being accepted for who you are. I really enjoyed it, but slightly less than the other Clune books that I've read, which is In the Lives of Puppets. This was a hybrid read for me. While I read some of the ebook, I preferred listening to the audiobook because the narrator did such an excellent job with the different voices of the children. Of course, Chauncey the amorphous blob who wants to be a bellop was my absolute favorite. The vibes on this one are Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, but The House on the Cerulean Sea is done in a fun, charming way. And it'll leave you wondering, how many times is Bobby Darin's song Beyond the Sea used in books and TV shows? There you have it, 5 fantastic fantasy reads that won't overwhelm you with complex world building. Remember to like and subscribe. Happy reading!